Good morning. I'm currently working on a review of Rotten Mango, and she recently covered the murder of Sam Miller. This is the bride who was killed by the drunk driver. It was recently covered by, I believe, Crime Weekly. Could have just been Stephanie Harlow. And I am so glad to see this talked about. I know that this case is a particularly emotional one. The image of this beautiful bride on her wedding day and her fiance's brother-in-law and nephew riding off on a golf cart. There are a couple aspects of this case that I think make it stand out. Obviously, the murder of a bride, a woman laying dead in the street for no reason in a wedding dress. These images of the groom's mother receiving his wedding ring in a plastic bag 5 hours after he put it on. It's crazy. It's devastating. And the ripples can be felt throughout these people, and the injuries that the other 3 people received are serious. The least of them was, fortunately, the nephew, who seems to have been a minor at the time, but even he received a concussion, which can be quite damaging. Eric's mother, Annette, had set up a GoFundMe to raise money for medical expenses. She reported that Eric had received multiple injuries, including 2 broken legs, one of which had to be surgically repaired. He had had surgery on broken bones in his face. He had a broken vertebra in his back, brain bleeds, and numerous cuts needing stitches, along with the emotional trauma of losing your wife on your wedding day. 4 months after the incident, Annette reported that he was in a great deal of pain and undergoing physical therapy for his legs and the broken vertebra. He now has knee pain that will most likely need surgery. Annette had to uproot her life to come and take care of her son. She stated that they were waiting to see if he would need surgery around his left eye to match it to his right eye and for the double vision and light sensitivity he was experiencing. He'll have severe scars on his legs, feet, left ear, and eye. Annette also reported that her daughter's husband, Ben, was hospitalized for 11 days before he was physically able to make the return flight to Utah. His family had to return home without him. Ben was recovering in a burn unit, which anyone who's experienced that knows how traumatic even spending time in a burn unit can be. It's one of the most painful scenarios a human being can live through. They have to clean out and dress the wounds, and it's just an unbearable, unimaginable, excruciating experience. Ben was expected to need plastic surgery for his facial stitches, some on his hands, and another skin graft once he got back to Utah. He had severe road rash, which still required wound care, as well as scars on his face, head, and arms. Ben was also experiencing intense pain due to what initially was thought to be his cracked pelvis and deep bruising. However, more MRIs revealed a labrum tear and separated joint in his hip, as well as 2 broken vertebrae in the middle of his back. He's now walking with a cane, and he's been referred to a spine clinic and neurosurgeon, along with his orthopedic surgeon, to determine if hip or back surgery was necessary or would help with the pain. Finally, Annette reported that her grandson Brogan was relatively uninjured other than a concussion, bruises, scratches, and soreness. This was in April, and I guarantee you that Eric and Benjamin are both still recovering from this, physically as well as mentally. We often focus just on the death and forget what injury does, and how long recovery can take, and how permanently it can affect a person's life. We also, in the true crime community, have this tendency to focus on the serial killer. We think about predators out there taking large numbers of women's lives. We think about brutal instances that are intentional, and we feel like prey. And sometimes watching these stories can give us some sense of comfort, control, awareness. The reality is, drunk driving and domestic violence are the real threats. Those are the areas where you are most likely to be a victim, or to have your sister, your brother, your best friend, your mother, your father be killed. And we don't talk about them enough. It doesn't really matter how someone dies. It is equally devastating for the family members. But drunk driving is a particularly preventable form of death. The other aspect of Sam Miller's murder that I think really draws attention is this selfish, entitled, spoiled Veruca response juxtaposed against this beautiful couple just starting out their lives. It's a palpable pain, and I understand why it's gone viral, and I'm glad it is, because it does bring up aspects in the true crime arena that don't get much attention. The truth is, people do stupid things. All of us, every single one of us does something stupid at some point, and usually we're able to recover. Sometimes something happens that you can't make up for. And when it does, if you take a life, I think the normal response is remorse. It's horror. It's a wake-up call if you're a drunk driver. When the sobriety arrives, you will feel what you've done. And I think people are permanently changed. There's a reason for PTSD. There's a reason why cops get counseling after a shooting. It is not natural to take another human life, even when necessary. Even when it is me versus you, and I have to take your life to save my own or to save my loved ones, there's going to be a psychological impact, even though I am justified. There's just something about killing that we're not supposed to be doing. I don't in any way think that Jamie intended to kill anyone that night. But it wasn't an accident. She made a choice. She got in the car, she turned it on, she drove at 65 miles an hour until she crashed into the golf cart, and then became combative with police and would later whine about not receiving a yoga mat in jail and the food, and literally repeatedly whining, why me? Why me? She has no sense of the pain and destruction she's caused. She has no guilt. She has no remorse. She is just delusional and oblivious and seems to think she's just going to get, picked out of this by her rich parents, who I'm guessing have always taken care of everything for her. And I really hope they can't do it this time. There's already some rumor that the sheriff has given her special treatment, and she is on tape telling her boyfriend that she wasn't supposed to tell anyone, but she's getting helped out by the nice lady who runs the department. Like, she has no idea she's being recorded.
Like all day. But guess what?
What?
So you have to my dad said not for you not to talk to anyone about this or anything, but the deputy sheriff, the head person of Charleston County, I met with her today, and she's trying to help me out.
That's good.
And she is you don't need I don't want you in here, you should be with your family, blah blah blah. So that's really good.
That is good. Yeah.
So then I can hopefully be home sooner.
Yeah, that would be good.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any word? Did you have like your bond hearing yet, or no?
No, that's what I'm waiting for. I have to wait for that to like get out, basically. But like, she's the head deputy, whatever. She was really nice too. I think her name is Kirsten DeMontes or something. But she's really nice, and I think she's gonna help me.
The fortunate thing about that is that if there was the intention to give special treatment to Jamie, it's not happening now. This is an elected office. The sheriff would have to be a moron or not want to continue her career in order to do anything whatsoever that seems to be supporting Jamie. Drinking and driving is something I honestly haven't done. It's not that I don't understand it. I can easily imagine thinking, it's just a few minutes, it's just down the road, I'm okay, because drinking affects your judgment and you don't know when you're okay or when you're not. But my father was a severe alcoholic. He reached a point where he couldn't go without it. It was first thing in the morning until he fell asleep, and he had to keep a job. So he drove to work, and you could walk by and see beer cans all over the floor of his truck. And throughout all of our arguments about his alcoholism, he would get defensive whenever it was challenged. He might admit to things he had said or done, or to the fact that it was a serious problem. He actually always acknowledged that it was a serious problem. But the only time I ever saw any emotional response, any real depth to the idea of quitting, was when talking about the idea of him hurting someone else on the roads. I think that would have absolutely crushed him. I don't think he could have recovered from it because he was an alcoholic, but he was also a compassionate, loving, caring man who didn't want to hurt anyone. So there is a struggle that can go on in some people, but it's not justified. And if my father had hit someone and he was sent to prison, I'd visit. I just don't understand her parents coddling her and acting like she's going to be okay and apparently pulling strings to make it okay.
I love you too. I'm so sorry.
No, you don't.
We're not mad at you. We love you.
You don't need to be sorry, Jamie. This is what happened, and we're going to take care of it. There's no being sorry about it.
Okay? Okay.
All right? We don't care. We don't care about what happened. We just care about what to do. We care, right. We don't care what happened. We care only about you.
Okay?
All right.
Thank you so much, Jamie. I love you too.
All right. Bye, sweetheart.
People have to be responsible for their own mistakes. They have to be accountable for the damage they do to others. And if it were my child, I would get a good lawyer. I would visit. I'd put money on their books. I would tell them I love them. And I would tell them, just plead guilty, make it easy on the family you hurt, and accept what happens. And that's for any crime. That's murder. That's anything. It's really striking to me, though, the way this girl is so concerned about herself, that her cat and her boyfriend won't be there for her when she gets out, which she keeps referring to in terms of months or even less. Like it hasn't set in that this could be years. Like, she genuinely cannot comprehend that this is real.
I said, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I just can't believe this happened to me. Why me, Dad? Why me? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I'm going to be here for like years and years and years and years and years and years. I can't.
And I want her to go to prison. I have a very strong dislike for this woman. And it's because in all of her whining, she doesn't whine about having killed someone or talk about what she did or the effects or ask, oh, Eric has a broken vertebrae. How's he doing? There's nothing, no thought to these people who she destroyed. To be fair, there are moments where she's not quite a monster, where she seems like there is some empathy and some willingness to change or to do better with her life. She seems to genuinely be concerned about the plight of other prisoners who don't have her privilege or access to legal defense. But she does not bring up the victims of her own crime. It's obviously not my place to forgive her, but I have trouble imagining her receiving forgiveness when she won't admit to what she's done, when she won't face it. I mean, it's great if she wants to go off and spend her trust fund on helping the poor and defenseless, but it doesn't change what she did and how she traumatized these people's lives.
There's so many people that don't even they can't even afford to get a lawyer or anything, and I just feel so lucky that I have such good people that are able to help me.
Jamie, that's what Daddy-O does, okay? Don't even think about it. You don't need to thank me. This is what Daddy-O does, because he loves his kid, okay? No question about it.
No, I was thinking about it. I was thinking about, what kind of, what I would want to do, after, if I would want to try to, become, I don't know, study law or something with the time that I have, or just come up with a plan for, philanthropy or something,
What has happened, to you, okay? And again, bad things happen to wonderful people, and that's what happened. Now you have to make the best of the situation. Okay?
Okay.
I know you're going.
But she'll complain that a golf cart shouldn't have been on the road. The golf cart, which was perfectly road legal.
And it's going to be tough, and I know that, honey.
And it was a golf cart.
I know, honey. We know, honey, okay?
Golf cart shouldn't even be allowed on the freaking road.
Okay, honey, listen. Don't say anything about anything else, okay?
The golf cart that was doing, I've heard it had a max speed of 15. People do drink and drive. And whether you're one of those confident people who thinks you actually drive better when you're drunk, or you're someone, very cautiously edging down the street, white knuckling it, hoping you make it home okay, it's just not safe and it's just not worth it. You're making a decision that can lead to tragedy. And there is a part of you that knows that. And my dad, he just got lucky. He was an excellent driver. That is true. He was maybe the best driver I've ever seen. He had worked as a tow truck driver for a while, and I've never seen anybody that can get in and out of spots and just take hills and turns, things that, I'm slowing down to 20 to take, and he's perfectly comfortable at 60. And it's not because he's drunk, it's because he's a good driver. So that may have helped, but honestly, I think it was mostly just luck. So the CDC estimates that 37 people die every day in the United States in alcohol-related crashes. That's every 39 minutes. And I do like the term crashes because it's not an accident. There were 13,384 deaths in 2021. 13,384 deaths. And still so many people think, I'll be okay. I'm somehow exempt. I'm immune to the consequences. Everybody thinks it's not going to happen to them. And it happens all the time. Every 39 minutes. Apparently 27% of these car crashes were caused by people 21 to 24 years old. Another 25% were caused by people 25 to 34. So I think this is something that really needs to be discussed and pushed among young people, and they need to be pushing each other. It doesn't do much good to have, a 47-year-old come along and lecture a 21-year-old, don't drink and drive. But having your friends encourage you that if you're bar hopping, make sure that you have a ride set up, or you have a Lyft, an Uber. Make sure that the area you're in has ride services available, because not everywhere does. I mean, every major city, but there's a lot more to this country. But make sure you have a ride. There are cabs everywhere. Take a bus. I guess that doesn't work late night, but I've definitely seen drunk people on the bus before. If you're going out with a group, pick a designated driver. If you're going out alone, make sure that Lyft or Uber service the area. If not, check out taxi services. If you have a friend who has been drinking too much, offer them a ride. Take their keys. Find some way to stop them from getting on the road. If you're hosting, it's a good idea to keep an eye on how much your guests are drinking. You don't want to be responsible for someone who is a friend, someone you love, going out there and dying or killing. It's been a while since I've been on the party scene, but I always made sure that I had a ride if I knew I would be drinking. It's not hard to plan ahead. And the moment you take your first sip, you should be aware that your judgment is going to be impaired the more you drink. So I thought I would take a quick look at what the BAC is and how it generally affects us. The way it affects you will be dependent on factors like your size, your body fat content, how often you drink. So it isn't like a absolute concrete guide, but it is a pretty good generalization of where people are at certain BACs. Anything above 0.2, you will generally need assistance walking, experience total mental confusion, dysphoria with nausea and vomiting, and possibly blacking out. So, just for general knowledge, at 0.02, you have reduced inhibitions, some loss of judgment, relaxation, slight body warmth, an altered mood, a decline in visual function. You might have trouble with rapid tracking of a moving target. There's a decline in ability to perform 2 tasks at once. 0.02 to 0.03, there is a loss of shyness, a slight euphoria, and a relaxation. I think that's the range that most of us aim for. From 0.04 to 0.05, there's a feeling of well-being, lowered inhibitions, and a sense of warmth, euphoria, and minor impairment of judgment. You can have impairment of memory and a lowering sense of caution. At 0.05, you start to see reduced coordination and impaired judgment, difficulty with multitasking, exaggerated behavior, and you may have loss of small muscle control, such as focusing your eyes. People usually have a good feeling, lowered alertness, and a release of inhibitions. Your coordination is reduced and your ability to track moving objects is reduced. You'll probably have difficulty steering and a reduced response to emergency driving situations. Above 0.6, there is slight impairment of balance, speech, vision, reaction time, and hearing. A sense of euphoria, reduced judgment and self-control, impaired reasoning and memory. At 0.08, you are legally impaired in all 50 states. Muscle coordination becomes poor. Your balance, speech, vision, reaction time, hearing, detection of danger, judgment, self-control, reasoning, and memory are all impaired. Concentration and short-term memory loss. Driving tests have shown you can't control your speed, and you have a reduced information processing capability. So you might miss a traffic signal. 0.10, you have a severely compromised driving ability, an inability to maintain lane position and brake appropriately or control your speed. There's a clear deterioration of reaction time and control. There's slurred speech, poor coordination, and slowed thinking. From 0.1 to 0.129, there is significant impairment of motor coordination and loss of good judgment. Speech may be slurred. Balance, peripheral vision, reaction time, and hearing will be impaired. At 0.12, you have greatly reduced muscle control and coordination and a risk of vomiting. I've been there once. It was tequila. I was topless, hugging trees in a park, and it was not a good night once I got home. So, okay. So with a BAC of 0.15 to 0.3, you are at high risk of inadequate breathing. You're unable to walk without assistance, loss of bladder control, and possibly loss of consciousness. Gross motor impairment and lack of physical control, blurred vision, major loss of balance. Euphoria is reducing and being replaced by dysphoria. Significant mental and physical impairment and increased risk of accidents if driving. Far less muscle control than normal. Vomiting may occur unless the person has reached this state very slowly or has developed a strong tolerance to alcohol. Most people will have a significant loss of balance, impairment in vehicle control, in attention to what they're doing. They lose the necessary visual and auditory processing ability to drive. Dysphoria predominates, nausea may appear, and the drinker has the appearance of a sloppy drunk. 0.2 to 0.249, the drinker needs assistance in walking and experiences total mental confusion, dysphoria with nausea and vomiting and possible blackout. 0.25 to 3.9, alcohol poisoning, loss of consciousness. 0.4, onset of coma and possible death due to respiratory arrest. Jamie claimed she had 1 beer and 1 vodka pineapple. I think the truth is Jamie is lucky that she's alive. So if you're drinking, have fun, but be safe. Make sure that you have a ride. Wear your seatbelt. Don't get behind the wheel yourself. People's lives are depending on you. Your life is dependent on it. It's not worth the risk, especially when it's never been easier to arrange a ride, to make plans ahead of time, to make sure that you, your friends, your loved ones make it home safe. it can happen to you. As far as the excuse of alcoholism, and apparently Jamie did have a history of substance abuse, it's not an excuse for drunk driving. I understand that it is beyond the alcoholic's control, that they need to drink, that it's a compulsion. It's a compulsion and a physical dependency. It's not a choice. Drinking to start may have been a choice, but once you are an alcoholic, you are not choosing to drink. And it's a hard one to fight. It's hard to beat. Millions of people have done it. Alcoholism can be conquered, and it takes work. It takes dedication, and sometimes people have to do something horrible before it sets in and they're able to make the steps that need to be done. So alcoholism is a disease, but getting behind the wheel is a choice. These are not accidents. These are crashes. And she's not being charged with murder. She's being charged, I believe, with reckless homicide, because intent doesn't matter. This woman is dead, and she would not be if not for the choice of Jamie Komorowski. She should be living her life. Sam Miller wanted to be a mom. Sam Miller was an animal lover. She was just starting with the love of her life at 34. She was 34 years old. She knew he was the right one. She knew what she wanted out of life, and she was making it happen. They joined together, and they were just starting. This girl took so much from so many people, and she can't even acknowledge it so far. Maybe there's going to be a wake-up point where the reality of what she's done hits her, but I'm not seeing any signs of it. And she's very easy to hate. I don't like to hate people. I just really don't like that entitlement, and I don't understand how you can take a lot, even if Sam hadn't died. Let's say everything happened the way it did, and Sam also has a broken vertebra, and she's in the hospital with 2 broken legs and road rash, and she's being treated in a burn unit, but she's going to be okay. She's going to be all right. Nobody died. I would still be devastated and thinking of nothing but what these people are going through if I had been the one to hit them. And it's like it hasn't even crossed her mind. It's really disturbing. It brought to mind for me another case. Kendall Murphy was a 27-year-old firefighter who was engaged, and he was on his way to an accident scene when he was hit by a drunk driver who happened to be a fellow firefighter. This guy, he admitted to having 6 drinks and to have been playing around on his phone at the time that he hit Kendall, and still had the balls to plead not guilty in court. I understand people need plea deals and make all kinds of arrangements, but maybe that's part of why society doesn't seem to have any real accountability anymore. You've got people like Jamie's parents who clearly spoil her no matter what she does and never gave her a sense of responsibility or consequences.
Dad.
Did you hear me?
Yes.
We love you so much, and we are going to do everything we can to help every single thing.
I'm so sorry.
You don't have to tell me you're sorry. Do you understand me?
I
know that you're sorry. I know you made a mistake. But guess what? It's over, and there's nothing that can be done about it. Now we have to think about today and tomorrow, okay?
Okay.
All right? There we go. Think about today and tomorrow. Think about getting through today.
Think about getting through tomorrow.
And then you've got a legal system where even if you're innocent, you have to say you're guilty to get out. And if you're guilty, you say you're not guilty to get a plea, because they'll do anything to keep it from going to trial. It's insane. It's not about justice. It's about money. But that's a whole other video. Anyway, so Kendall, he was engaged to a woman named Jessica Paget, and their wedding was coming up September 29th. She already had the dress and everything, and she decided to do a photo shoot. I believe they first went to the same spot where they had had their engagement photos taken with the same photographer. And then they visited Kendall's grave. And there's this amazing series of photos that she made public, one of which has Kendall superimposed into it, of her in the wedding dress, and it's absolutely beautiful and absolutely heartbreaking at the same time. The photographer, Mandy Knapp, said, quote, "She made broken look so beautiful and strong look invincible. She walked with the universe on her shoulders and made it look like a pair of wings."
Dwayne Murphy's responded to many calls over his 30-year career as a firefighter.
I can go to a fire all day. I can go to a difficulty breathing all day. It's the ones with a wreck, and then
His son Kendall was killed in November 2017, following in his father's footsteps as a volunteer firefighter.
this accident was just a mile down from where I live.
Kendall was responding to an accident when a fellow firefighter, Colby Blake, responded to the same scene while drunk driving.
This was an accident that was 100% preventable. So many things could have happened on that night to avoid this.
Emotions ran high as 27-year-old Blake sat in the courtroom awaiting his fate.
I'm trying to figure out what's next in his life, especially after his sentencing, after being out of prison.
Blake was sentenced to 6 years for the accident, a moment Kendall's family waited 635 days for.
We're happy with whatever would have happened. We just left that in the hands of the judge, and that's what it was.
The Murphys say they have the firefighting community to thank for rallying behind them.
They come to me and asked if they could wear their Class A's. We kind of talked about it, and I was like, I think it'd look good.
We tried to support him however we can and help him through it.
In Davies County with local news that matters, Taylor Johnson, WTWO.
Paget and Kendall Murphy were scheduled to be wed on September 29, 2018. But last November, Murphy, an Indiana firefighter, was killed by an alleged drunk driver. Murphy's mother approached their booked photographer Mandy Knapp to see if she would still document their would-be wedding date. Knapp agreed.
Jessica was on board. She was super excited to be able to actually put her dress on and to have a day remembering him.
Knapp spent the day with the couple's family and wedding party. Murphy's parents also brought their son's uniform and firefighter boots for the shoot.
It was an emotional roller coaster. She's a very strong lady, and there were times that we were all laughing and times that no one in the place had a dry eye.
Knapp wanted to create just one photo with Murphy photoshopped in that Paget could treasure forever.
If you can read on the plaque, it says that he's her guardian angel. And it was so neat that it looks like he's giving her those boots and the flower arrangement.
Knapp hopes her photographs can be part of the healing process for anyone who has to go through a similar tragedy.
I'm a far friend from the family, but man, it touches your heart. And if there would maybe be anyone out there that would be able to do the same as her, I think it's so healing to be able to actually still put on that dress and have that special day.
Summer Delaney, Pix 11 News.
Kendall was only 27. Sam was 34. They were young, wonderful people just starting out who deserved to have the rest of their lives. And while drunk driving isn't the kind of crime that most of us want to watch while folding clothes or curled up in bed, it is important to talk about these cases. And we do need to realize that we are so much more likely to be a victim of a drunk driver than a serial killer. And I do feel similar about domestic violence. I think we have Scott Peterson, Chris Watts cases that get big that are about domestic violence, but I think it's much more prevalent than people believe. And the risk of death is there, even if it hasn't occurred yet. People are stalked and threatened. There's all sorts of abuse, economic abuse, sleep deprivation, all kinds of things that people don't necessarily equate with abuse. They have this idea of a man hitting a woman, and that constitutes abuse. Anything else is just family trauma. I don't know. But people need to realize that your partner should treat you with respect and support you and make you feel safe. It's not a matter of, oh, the good times are so good, they outweigh the bad. There shouldn't be bad. You know, everybody's got struggles. There are always little hiccups in life. There's drama and pain and sorrow, but you should be able to lean on each other when that hits you. You shouldn't be causing it for each other. And if you feel that you're in a healthy relationship, but you are causing each other a lot of pain, I'd really suggest therapy, because it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to have the bad. And you certainly shouldn't put up with the abusive. There are lines, and unfortunately, they're blurred in our society. It's very recent that marital rape was completely illegal. There are still little gaps that should not be on the books throughout this country that allow for significant abuse to occur. For me, at least, I don't want to watch domestic violence all the time. I have experienced an abusive relationship, and I don't want to revisit it. Maybe it feels too close. It feels too real. With the serial killers, they are so unlikely that there's a little bit of a feeling of distance. I don't know how else to put this, but I don't think domestic violence has the entertainment value that serial killers have. In certain cases, like a Chris Watts or a Scott Peterson, then it comes into play. But it has to be pretty brutal and horrible for it to get media attention. And the victim, I don't think that a YouTuber who focused only on domestic violence cases would have much success. I don't think a lot of people want to watch those stories. But we should be talking about them amongst ourselves, talk to each other. So much happens behind closed doors. You probably know at least one person, male or female, who is experiencing abuse that they're hiding very well from everyone. Isolation is often a key point when they start separating themselves from their friends, their family. They're only spending time with their partner, and he doesn't like it when they go out, or he wants to know where she is all the time. There are those red flags, of course, but there are also people that seem perfectly happy and healthy and like this ideal couple. Before that December, Scott and Lacey were marriage goals from the outside. Anyway, I just wanted to say I'm happy to see this being picked up and talked about, even if it has to be a pretty spectacular incident. with an extraordinarily beautiful, lovable victim and an extraordinarily easy to hate killer. I'm glad it's being covered, and I'm glad that people might be thinking twice about how much they drink. Even if they just look at the legal consequences, that might be enough. Penalties can include imprisonment or community service and probation. Even with brief imprisonment, there are court fines, often exceeding $10,000. Then there's the potential loss of jobs, homes, and custody of children while away. There's vehicle impoundment, towing, and storage fees, which add up at an insane rate. Your driver's license could be revoked or suspended. Your license plate can be confiscated. The conviction can lead to job loss and long-term restrictions depending on the field you work in. You won't be able to operate company vehicles. It may limit things like construction. Anything around heavy machinery could be impacted. Your insurance rates will skyrocket, and if you're at fault, most states won't cover punitive damages as part of your insurance, so you're on your own. Interlock devices and mandatory treatment programs are all at the driver's own expense. And then there's civil litigation. Family members, property owners, victims, anybody could sue you, and you could face multiple lawsuits depending on what happened. Charges range from misdemeanors to felony offenses, and in some states, even a first-time offense has a mandatory brief jail sentence. Anyway, please don't drink and drive. Please prevent those you love from drinking and driving. Stay safe and wear your seatbelts and listen to your instincts. Please, the instincts will guide you. All right, I'll be back soon. Bye.
Words cannot express this tragedy. We're going to take a moment of silence for Sam. A moment of silence for Sam.
Well, a paddle out is when somebody tragically loses their life. Technically, for surfers, it's for surfers that when a surfer goes down, we work together in a circle and we throw flowers and put our hands in the air to give strength to all of us. And I just felt appropriate that they were married here on Folly. She unfortunately left us on Folly, and we want to remember her out here in the Atlantic of Folly. This was just out of kindness of what Folly's about. What us residents stick together through tragedies. And I feel it's important that we all work together and stick together. And this is our way of giving our heartfelt gratitude and condolences to these families.